What is up, guys? Rick Cactus here, and today we are going to be taking a look at the brand new Horror Story auto rifle just introduced into Destiny 2. This is the featured weapon for the Festival of the Lost event, which has just begun, and this is going to be something that a lot of people are working their way towards during this event, because to get your hands on the Horror Story, you need to turn in 120 Fragmented Souls to Amanda Holiday. Now, Fragmented Souls are the new currency that has been introduced into Destiny with the Festival of the Lost event. You get your hands on them by doing several different things. Either by doing daily bounties from Amanda Holiday, the weekly bounty as well, and mainly you're going to get them from doing the Haunted Forest activity. So after grinding that for quite a while, which actually wasn't that bad, if you guys are having trouble with the Haunted Forest, if you want to know how to optimize your loadout and your playstyle to really start getting Fragmented Souls at a considerable pace, check out my Haunted Forest guide linked above. But again, after farming that considerably, I have acquired this weapon, so let's talk about it. Is this worth the grind? Is the Horror Story a good auto rifle? Well, let's take a look at it. So, stats-wise, this is a 450 rounds per minute auto rifle. This is pretty much in the middle of the road. You can get a little bit slower with the 360s, and there's a few archetypes above it as well with the 600 and 720s. But I find this 450 archetype very user-friendly. And the other stats are pretty user-friendly as well. It's got decent range, decent stability, decent handling, and very, very good reload. Now, in terms of the perks, it actually doesn't have random perks or anything like that. It has a curated exotic style role where it has one row of perks and you cannot change them. So we have a sight, then we have Flared Magwell, which is going to help increase that reload even more. Then we have Zen Moment, so landing your shots on an enemy will reduce your recoil until it basically becomes a laser beam. And on top of that, we have arguably the best perk overall for auto rifles, which is Rampage. After getting a kill, damage increases, stacks up to 3 times. And this is also going to come with a Masterwork 10 in reload speed, and it drops at 600 for its power level. Those last two features are really, really important. Even if this didn't have the best roll, it had Grave Robber and Under Pressure, something like that, you know, a pretty average roll or below average roll. The fact that it would automatically come Masterworked and 600 power would be enough for a lot of people to justify grinding for this weapon, but thankfully we have kind of an above average roll. So, how does this weapon perform? Firstly, in PvP. Well, in PvP, the generally good stats and reasonable archetype make it definitely not that bad. The thing is, when I first tried to get footage for this weapon, I was doing Iron Banner, and that was not very fun. You have people sweating in Iron Banner, people that are playing as if their lives depend on it, and they are absolutely using the meta. Great illustration of what happens if you use an auto rifle against someone with a Luna's Howl. You're just gonna lose that gunfight. Even if you're prepared, even if you're expecting them to come around the corner, they have a way faster time to kill than you, so you're just gonna get dunked on. But then, moving on to quick play, things went considerably better and this weapon was performing very, very well. And I think that's such a perfect example of competitiveness and the meta. If I say a weapon is bad, I will undoubtedly get comments of people saying, "How dare you say that? I use it and I do well with this weapon." You can do well with any weapon in the game, but it depends a lot on the skill of yourself and the people you're playing. Like I said, when we're playing Iron Banner with the meta against kids who are sweating, this weapon is going to suffer because auto rifles right now can't compete with pulse rifles at range, and against stuff like the Luna's Howl, and frankly, even just against shotguns, they have no chance up close. People can run at you, slide, and shotgun you, even in medium to close range, before you can kill them with auto rifles, because again, that time to kill just isn't there. But if you're using this casually, if you're just playing quick play, if you want to have some fun, the fact that you can string together multiple kills with Rampage and you can hit people at ranges they don't quite expect, because if you get Zen Moment rolling, they are not going to be expecting an absolute laser beam in PvP. Yeah, this thing actually performs decent. So in PvP, it's definitely not top tier. Don't take this into comp. You're gonna get crushed. But it's not a terrible weapon, and if you're someone who already enjoys using auto rifles, and particularly this archetype, this is going to be something that I think is going to work well for a decent amount of people. However, PvP is not really the home for this weapon because its perks are much more set for PvE. This is really the section of the game where the horror story does come into its own and perform very, very well. Because, again, Zen Moment and Rampage, they're not unnoticed in PvP and they're not terrible in PvP. But for something like Zen Moment, and even Rampage, you want a weapon to be front-loaded kind of in PvP. You don't want the accuracy to come after already shooting someone for a certain amount of time. You want something like even tap the trigger, so the accuracy is there right away. Those first few milliseconds will often decide who wins a gunfight in a 1v1 scenario. But in PvE, it's kind of the opposite. A lot of enemies are going to take a lot of shots to take down. If you're shooting a knight or any enemy with yellow health, you're going to plug potentially your entire magazine into that enemy. And just having to shoot 3 or 4 rounds to start getting this weapon pinpoint accurate, and then just putting your reticle over the enemy's head and holding the trigger. The amount of just yellow numbers that are popping up with the horror story is honestly astonishing. Zen Moment is one of the better perks you can get on any PvE role for pretty much any weapon, because again, it makes it so accurate, and once you do get that pinpoint accuracy, like I said, the precision shots are constant, and therefore if you're always landing precision shots, your DPS is going to go through the roof. But that is of course combined with an arguably even better PvE perk in Rampage, and oh my gosh, that's a disgusting combo. The laser beam accuracy granted by Zen Moment lets you pick off one enemy and another and another and another. You can get to Rampage ×3 extremely quickly with this horror story. The fact that it's in the 450 rounds per minute auto rifle archetype is also fantastic because you don't need to spend a ton of ammo on enemies, and its range is pretty good too, so you can use this weapon out to those longer ranges where Zen Moment is also really helping. And it's so easy to just chew through a massive group of enemies. It's also really nice to kill a few enemies and then move on to a more powerful enemy. Kill 1 or 2 acolytes and then move on to the knight. And because you have Rampage going and you're dead accurate, you can take down those knights, take down those more powerful enemies really fast. Whereas normally, you're looking at an entire magazine just on those one knights and then reloading and then more guys. You're killing way more enemies with that one magazine. And speaking of magazine, the fact that the reload speed is so good on this weapon is actually a benefit. Now, when I first saw the horror story and I saw that it was masterworked in reload speed, it's kind of disappointing. You see it and you're like, reload speed, it's not one of the more glorified stats. But it potentially makes this weapon so much better. The combination of Flared Magwell and Reload Masterwork 10 means that you can get to Rampage ×3 no problem with a magazine, reload, and still have Rampage ×3 for the next enemy you engage. And that is super important. If you can get to a 3-stack of Rampage, reload your weapon, engage another enemy and kill that enemy, and maintain your 3-stack, your damage output goes so astronomically through the roof when we're dealing with groups of enemies that, other weapons just cannot even keep up. In fact, that combo is so good, I would use this weapon in the endgame. I would have no problem bringing a horror story into the Last Wish raid. There are so many parts where this weapon would be unbelievably good. There are so many darn scions when you're fighting Riven, this would just cut through all of them. And with all that being said, there's another massive benefit that this weapon brings. Well, I guess 2, because it's going to be 600, raising your light is super important, but the other one, Masterwork 10 is honestly something you don't see a lot of people using because Masterwork cores are so stingent right now, and it costs just so much Masterwork cores to get a weapon all the way to Masterwork 10. Most people are not using a Masterwork primary, and therefore you're missing out on a ton of orb generation. If you go through a strike and you're using a normal primary and you see your orbs produce at the end of it, you're going to produce, I don't know, 10, 15. But if you're using the Horror Story, you're going to produce 30, 40 orbs or more. Like, it's insane. And although those orbs are not going to be as beneficial as a normal orb produced by a super, that should not be discounted. Getting your super more often is a huge benefit in any aspect of the game, but in PvE, because it's so easy to get double kills, multi-kills with the Horror Story, and it's dropping orbs like crazy, and most people, you know, because the Masterwork cores don't have Masterwork primaries, this is going to see a lot of play if you get it. So, is this weapon worth getting? Is this weapon worth grinding for? Honestly, absolutely it is. Heck, the fact that you can get this weapon and then dismantle it to get 7 Masterwork cores is almost worth it by itself. But I wouldn't recommend doing that because this weapon is very good. If you are someone who does any sort of PvE activities, this is going to really perform well for you. Guys, that is it for the video. Hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. And if you guys want to keep in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.